Hello and welcome to Fully Charged. I'm Jonny Smith. I'm not Robert Llewellyn, I'm sorry. He's in Australia having his back waxed or something. So here we are in France driving the Smart ED, not EV, ED, electric drive. This is not the first electric Smart actually. It's a fourth generation car. Never been a particularly big selling vehicle, but a very cult vehicle. And I've just switched it on and it is indeed alive. So we're going to go for a drive around France. The reason why we're in France is, well, Mercedes didn't exactly know why, apart from the fact that the Smart Forfour, which is officially called now, is made in France because Mercedes-Benz Smart is in bed with Renault for a lot of their smaller car tech and their electric tech. And this is also the first time every single Smart model is available with electric propulsion. In other words, you can buy this, which is the Smart Forfour with the steel roof. You can buy the convertible, which is the world's first electric convertible, mass-produced convertible apparently. And you can also buy the Smart Forfour, which is a four-seater, four-door Smart, but it's actually a Renault Twingo. It's a similar thing. I won't confuse you with a Twingo Smart Forfour. Let's talk about that in a minute. But first up, here we are. This has got a range of 100 miles, probably closer to 75 in winter. They reckon maybe a touch more in summer, 103, something like that. It's a bit of a cult car because people who experience them and people who have bought them love them and they repeat purchase them, and they have a sense of space about them that you would never know, because this thing is 2.7 meters long. So this is a teeny car. It's a true 21st century bubble car. That woman's telling me which direction to turn my car, which is odd because she's just a passerby. Anyway. The thing about a smart car is, in a previous life on other TV shows, I've intentionally crashed a few of these. They are incredibly safe. People look at them and because they're very short, they presume they're unsafe. They presume that you're going to crumple in a crash above about 15 miles an hour. Not so. Absolutely not so. Because the smart car is based around something called a Tridion safety cell, which sounds a bit Marvel Comics, but what that is a steel roll cage clad in plastic panels, if that makes sense. Think of the way a race car is constructed. It's a steel space frame roll cage, and then it's just clothed with little pop-on panels. And in the old days, the original Smarts, you could switch out these for different coloured ones. But what I love about the Smart is, although it is compromised, yes, it's 2 seats, that's it. Once you can get beyond the 2-seat thing, it's a very, very roomy car, deceivingly comfortable, deceivingly roomy. Now, if you were going to buy a petrol one, the engine lives under the boot at the back. It's a 3-cylinder engine. But I don't need to talk to you about engines because this is fully charged. I need to talk to you about motors. So this has a 3-phase electric motor, and it does live under the back because this is rear-wheel drive. It's a proper car, right? Rear-wheel drive, rear-engined, rear-motored, and all of the batteries live under the floor. So actually, it has a lower centre of gravity than the normal piston equivalent car. Smarts have always had really funky interiors. They went a bit sensible with the second generation car. They tried to make it all a bit linear, and they've brought the funkiness back. There's lots of swoops and binnacles. You've got the heater pod outlets, and here, this one here tells me the power of charge that's being used or being recharged, and down here is what we've got left. However, it's also got it on the display down here. I scrolled through it earlier and it gave me a digital display. So it's a bit like modern cars where they give you the choice of a digital speedo or an analog speedo. You can order it in March this year. The cars will be delivered right at the beginning of summer, May time. So if you order a convertible, you'll actually start being able to use it. But Smarts have a very spacious feel about them. They are genuinely spacious in the true sense of the word. Like I'm quite a long guy, 6'3", always got tons of room, don't need to put the seats all the way back, and you never feel claustrophobic because the pillars are quite slim and there's loads of glass. There's tons of glazing around a Smart. Now with this real world kind of slightly less than 100 miles in winter like we are now, what is it? It's 14 degrees today, which is actually really hot for winter. You're going to want to charge it, and this will only charge at 7 kilowatts currently. They are going to instigate 22 kilowatts, they say, in 2018. So right now it'll charge from 20% to 100% in about 2.5 hours. Smarts had a habit in the old days of kind of hobby horsing a little bit and getting blown around by the wind at high speeds when they're out on the motorway. But the new Smart is a wider track car. It's got revised suspension. Yes, it is a little bit heavier, but it's also faster. That's interesting. I just went quite close to a car as we were turning off the junction. The car had more aggressive regen braking. That's because the Smart uses a radar-based regen, so it can tell where you are by GPS. And if it anticipates that we're going to have a long downhill spell or that we're going to have to brake suddenly, it will adjust and recalibrate the regen accordingly for maximum efficiency. It's quite a clever idea. You just forget that you're in a car that's 2.7 metres long. That's the thing about a Smart. You just forget that you're in such a tiny car, but yet the cabin space is maximised. There are so many cars that are physically big but actually quite cramped, and this is the total opposite. This is a true TARDIS in that respect. So it has 118 pounds-feet of torque. It'll get 0 to 62 in 11.5 seconds. Top speed of 81. A range of about 100 miles. Less in winter, of course. Maybe a titch more in summer, so they say. I don't know if anyone's into aquarium fish, but it looks like a pufferfish. Look it up. A pufferfish is a very interesting fish, but it's not an attractive fish. It has a bit of an underbite. I feel like this slightly concave, smashed face look is not Smart's finest stroke. And this electric Smart does one thing better than all of its piston counterparts, and that is it eliminates Smart's history of having a pathetic automatic gearbox. Smarts have never had good gearboxes. They've always been let down by this horribly pausey, dawdly, it's like talking to someone that pauses for too long when they reply to you. It's quite cringeworthy. And the great thing about the electric Smart is it's done away with that. It's direct drive, and it doesn't have gears. So you just put it in D and like this, and you just go. The Smart ED actually does feel like it was perfectly ready for electric propulsion. The Smart car setup works. It's safe, it's small, the turning circle is insane, I'll show you that shortly, but it's better than a London taxi, and they've improved it even more than what it used to be. The noises you're hearing, by the way, is actually my luggage and Mark's luggage in the boot. It's not actually the Smart's fault, so I need to point that out. The Smart's actually a very quiet car. You hear a little whir back there, but it's negligible. What are the rules, Robert, for swearing on this show? I'm trying to not swear, obviously, trying to be professional, but I would say this quality of plastic is gash. Like a lot of other EVs, you can use your phone to preheat the car when it's plugged into the mains charging, so you can get your seats warmed up and all that kind of thing. Throttle response is as you'd expect. But if you want it to be even more eco and you don't care about throttle response too much, you can click an eco button down here, which unsurprisingly brings up the word eco on the dash. And what that now does is it dulls off the throttle responses, just makes for a little bit better energy recuperation. Yeah, see now, I think the read, now I've got it on eco mode, when I back off on the throttle, it really does drag its heels. How do we feel about eco buttons on cars? Because I feel these days that cars have got more and more and more and more options. You know, you buy a sports car and it tells you if you want Sports Plus, track mode, extra track mode. And it's like, well, I know that they're giving the consumers the choice, but to me it feels like I want them to tell me how they wanted the car to be driven and how they wanted the car to be dialed in and tuned. How many people are going to press the eco button in this Smart? And should that be the default setting? And then should the other setting be the sort of sport or slightly less eco? One thing I love about the Smart is the fact that it's always been a fascinating design study. because it isn't substance over style, it isn't style over substance. I think it's just right. Okay, so the turning circle is 7.3 metres. Bear in mind a London cab is 7.6 metres, and a London cab, that's 25 feet, which is an incredibly tight turning circle. You've seen London black cabs. This is a whole new meaning of good turning circle. It's ridiculous. It feels like it's got the wheels 90 degrees. It's quite addictive. I mean, this is the thing about the Smart. It's designed with, you know, urban living in mind, which is why you get those cocky people that park them perpendicular to the curb. Okay, so if you're watching this thinking, I quite fancy a Smart for two, I'm gonna go and test drive one, I might order one. Price. After your lovely government subsidy, the price of the 4.2 hardtop is 16.5 grand. So it's about 20,900 without that government incentive. Add 2,000 quid for the convertible, and then add £500 only to the base price, which is 17 grand. 17 grand is your price for your four-door, your Forfour, four-seater, which I'll hopefully drive a bit later. Whilst the Smart's charging here, I thought I'd come round and I'd show you the boot, because actually, for a car that's this small, 2.7 metres long, the boot's no smaller really than your average hatchback like a Fiat 500 or a Mini one. You can fit an awful lot as long as you load it to the top. The motor lives under there because it's rear wheel drive, which is where the original engine went, but it doesn't impinge on the space at all. And the batteries live right underneath where your bum is, in the middle there. But this is the best bit. This is one of my favourite parts of a Smart. This is why cult cars like this have such a strong following, because a twin tailgate is normally the preserve of something luxurious like an SUV, like a Range Rover. You sit on it and you watch polo and so forth. This can cope with up to 100 kilos in weight, which is more than me. But look, there's a little cubby hole for sugary snacks and espresso that's just appeared out of nowhere. It's what I love about the Smart. There's a lot more to it than people think. And it's also very, very well executed. When you look inside all these little door shuts and the areas that most people don't look at when they buy a new car, it's very, very well finished. I mean, I'm not at the Polo, I'm in an industrial estate in France, but it's still picnicking, right? It's ghetto picnicking. This is the Smart Forfour, and it's called the Forfour because it has 4 doors, the other Smart has 2, and 4 seats for 4 people. So 4 doors, 4 occupants, okay? Now, I've adjusted this seat for myself in front, so I'm sat behind myself. It's a bit snug there, but not bad. Roof comes down quite low. They've made it cheaper to produce by giving it stuff like that. Windows that don't wind down, they just pop out. All these ways are making the car lighter and cheaper to produce. So a bit like Vauxhall Amperas and Chevy Volts, it's a 4-seat. The middle bit here is the centre console for your drinks and your paraphernalia, toys, that sort of thing. Cup holder here. These have got Isofix. They flip down for a completely flat floor, which is quite useful. Batteries live underneath the floor as per the Smart 4.2. I've just found a slot in the back of the seat that you can put your hand into, but it feels like you shouldn't. And it's like a glory hole. I got no idea. I should know because I'm being an ignorant car journalist. Is it phone storage? Let's do this. Like that? Is that a thing? I honestly can't tell what it's for. That's the boot, just there. It's where you put stuff. It goes in. You can remove the parcel shelf. It's where stuff goes. So it looks the same dash-wise, but this is the Smart Forfour, and this was built in collaboration with Smart and Renault and obviously Nissan. So kind of all 3 of them have chipped together on the R&D of this, the platform and the associated engines. I suppose the closest competitor to this car is the VW Up, the E-Up. It's a 17.6 kilowatt hour battery pack that lives down there under the floor. Looking back there, when I was having a crawl around earlier, I couldn't work out what these little weird slots were in the back of the seats, which looked like, do you remember VCR video recorders where you push the videotape in and the flap would close and it would play a video? What these are, I believe, are the apertures to put the brackets for iPads. So you can mount iPads in the back for people to view telly really easily. And I like these seats, the same as the Smart 4.2 seats. They are a one-piece headrest. They look like Porsche 944 or sort of 80s classic sports car seats. I like that. What I love is also, I've read in the spec that you can order the Smart Forfour with a cloth folding fabric sunroof. That's really old school. I like that. Both the 4.2 and the 4.4, there's not a huge amount of driving adjustment. You can't adjust the wheel on the 4.4, the steering wheel, up or down or in or out. It just appears to be completely fixed. And the seat doesn't sit that low, but for some people, these cars are perfect. The Smart 4.2, for example, for such a short little dinky car, you sit very high, you've got quite a commanding driving position, and I think that's why it feels quite empowering. You get in it and you forget how tiny it is because you can see everything. You've got great visibility. And you've got inherent strength as well. It's almost like they've priced it to the point where it'll be a no-brainer for people to buy it. I think it drives as a bigger car as a result. It feels more stable. I do prefer the more compromised two-seat 4.2, that's just me. There you go. Smart 4.4 at night in the French congestion. Okay, thanks for watching the Smart Electric Drive review. I've not been Robert Llewellyn, I apologise for that. I've been Jonny Smith, but thanks for watching. See you next time on Fully Charged.